Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Well, I suppose Mother's Day in the UK more than everywhere else. So it's Sunday today, and it's Mother's Day. So we are absolutely. The weather has been really, really good, and we managed to do quite a lot of things today. So yesterday we went to, because yesterday was Saturday, we drove down to Skegness, and we went to the beach. The weather wasn't as nice by the time we got there, but it was still quite, it wasn't raining or anything. It was just a bit windy, when you're sort of by the seaside, you're going to experience the waves and the wind, but it's still we had such amazing photos. We took some nice photos, because the sun was still there, but not as much as you would, as much as it was like between 12 and 1 or 12 and 2, but it was still a really, really good day. And there were all the rides, because I think this was probably their first weekend to start operating, because I don't believe that any of these fanfares open in the winter time, because imagine being up there and it being so windy, and oh my god, there's no way, there's no one who's gonna go. Well, people still, I assume, go up on these rides, but I wouldn't think that it's a good idea to have rides in the winter, because it's so cold, and not just cold, it's so windy as well. So and there isn't as many people. I would assume they wouldn't have as many customers as they would probably have during the summer, because people tend to get out a little bit more when it's summertime. And then because the rides were there, and I had thought, oh, okay, we should go on one of the rides. But then I thought to myself, hey, okay, we need to find like a teacup or something, because I am not good with rides at all. I remember a long time ago, I used to be like, oh, I'll go on a ride, I'm good. When you're younger, you don't care about anything. And then a few years later, we were on this ride. I used to go on a ride like any other time. We were on this ride in the middle, in the city center of Leicester. So it was like one of those rides that go right up to like maybe higher than a fourth floor building, a building with like 4 floors or 5 floors. So it takes you all the way up, and then it brings you all the way down midway, and then it drops you, and then brings you up again, and it drops you. And I thought, you know what, at that time I don't think I had a problem with being on rides. So I get on this ride, and I was like, yeah, this is exciting. It's just going up and it's coming down. What harm could that do me? I get on the ride, go all the way up. I could see everything. You could see the city, the view of the whole city, and amazing view. It was an actually amazing view. And then it comes down and it stops, and then it comes down again, and it goes up again. And then and not only just go up, it goes at such speed. So it's like when I think the first 2 times it was nice and slow. So you're like, oh, this is really good. And then they go midway and it stops. So you're sitting there anxiously waiting. Are they going to drop us down, or are they going to go right up, or when is it going to happen? So they hold you for so long, and then you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, which way is it going to go? And then it goes up, and then it stops for a minute, and you're happy because it stops, and you know it's only going to go down because you're right at the top. However, you don't know what speed it's going to go down at. So, and then it goes down all the way down to the bottom. And at this point, I am like, this is too scary for me. I've been on this ride for so long. I bet you it was only less than a second, but I was feeling like I had been on the ride for like 3 years at that point. So, and then it goes up again midway. It doesn't go all the way up, it goes midway, and then it stops, and then it comes down again. At this point, I'm like, stretching my hand. You've got the bars holding your stomach, holding you in, and the controller, or the man who's controlling the ride, is standing right there. So I am trying to grab onto him. I'm trying to grab onto his hand to say, please get me off, get me off. I cannot bear this anymore. I was now like palpitating. My heart was going. I don't know whether it was just my heart. My stomach was in knots. I was on full on panic mode, and I'm trying to get the attention. He was looking right at me because this particular ride, because it's just one thing that goes right up and comes down. So all the 8 seats are just in one, like they're just secular. So all the 8 seats are there. And I was facing right where the guy was. And I'm trying to get his attention. However, my problem was I was in so much panic. I'm starting to speak to this guy in like Shona, which I knew he didn't understand. So he's looking at me like, this person's crazy. I'm like, she's speaking in tongues. But in his mind, he's like, she's speaking in tongues. And I was just screaming. But because everybody's screaming, he's probably thinking, you're just having a good time. And then it goes up again, it comes down. And I am at this point like, I'm just going to die here. I'm literally, you get past the panic mode, you get past the anxiety, you get past everything. And at this point, you've accepted the eventuality that this is death. This is like what death is all about. So you're just sitting there. So I closed my eyes, which was the worst thing to do, I suppose, because when you've got your eyes open, you kind of like, you can see what's going on. You can see when it's going down. You kind of like have a balance. You balance yourself. When you close your eyes, you're not balanced anymore. So when it goes up, it pushes everything up, and then it comes down, but you're not, when you've got your eyes open and you focus on one thing, you kind of like, it keeps you sort of balanced. And I had my eyes closed. Now at this point, I am feeling like I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. It takes us up. And I'm like, I'm not throwing up while I'm up here, because imagine my clothes. It's like, I've still got a whole day. It was probably like 12 o'clock in the daytime. My clothes would be disgusting. The people around, all those things. So, it went up, down, up, down. At this point, I had just accepted my fate. Like, I'm dead. I'm just dead. So we then decided in my brain, me and my brain, we then decided, do you know what? Stop screaming, stop shouting, stop everything, which I did. And then because my eyes were closed, I opened my mouth. Oh, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Oh my God. The last time it just went up, and then everything just like shot right up. And I am sorry. This is me apologizing to whoever was at the bottom of those rides, because there is nothing disgusting than some things flying in the air, and you start, you're walking around and like there's some bits and pieces of food coming onto your head. I do sincerely apologize to whoever was at the bottom, or anybody who was just walking, minding their own business, and then you get these things flying in your head. Oh, I'm so sorry. However, I couldn't help it. I was at a point where I could not help it. They just shot us up like at speed, all the way right up to the top at speed. So, all the food, because when they bring you down, all the food sits right at the bottom. And then when they shoot you up, everything comes back up again. Well, tip of the day, which I obviously will never do now, go on a ride, is don't eat any food before you go on a ride because, because all the food is likely to be shoved up, down, up, down. It depends with whatever ride you go on to. But moral of the story is I got down and I could not stop throwing up. It was the worst experience. And I was feeling so, so dizzy. So I ended up having like a paramedic and all sorts of things. It was not a good experience. And I felt so ashamed. I don't know whether it was more ashamed. It was more like, I don't know how I couldn't handle it. I in a way, I would say it wasn't ashamed more than embarrassed. Embarrassed in myself because everybody could see what was going on, and there was a grown woman throwing up and feeling like my legs were jello. I could not walk. I had nothing, no energy left in me. It was almost like every time it went up, it sucked everything right out of me. And then I had paramedics. I had a little bit of oxygen after that, and somebody cleaned my mouth. Oh, it was not a good experience. And they're like, oh, do you think you can go make yourself home? So I was taken to like this first aid type of place and onto a bed, and it was too embarrassing. But I know now that going forward, if I ever go to like a fanfare, or if I go to like Alton Towers or whatever, there's like rides. Do you know what I do? I hold on to people's bags and I watch them scream, because I will not be doing that ever again in my entire life. Oh yeah, that was a funny thing. That was the worst experience of my life. But now that I don't go on rides, I don't care who goes on rides. If anybody wants to go, I don't say stop, don't go, go. But I've seen a lot of other people come off rides and they're like not feeling too good, but they probably still go on rides again. I remember, was it on Friday or Thursday Wednesday, when I was going to the office, and I was listening to, I think, Radio 1, where they were asking people to say, where have you had to suck it up and do something that you didn't really like to do? And one of these people just said, I went to like, let's say Alton Towers, and everybody was like, you need to go on a ride. It was like a trip with other people. And I knew I was afraid of going on rides, but because everybody convinced me that nothing's going to happen to me, I still went on it. And I suffered after that. So, I'm not the only one who struggles with going on rides. But I think as you get older, you fear more. You have more. You worry more and you fear more, and you see the consequences of what you're doing a little bit more than you would if you were 18, 19, 20, 21 or something like that. So I can understand. I even know my daughter won't go on rides. I don't know. She would not. You cannot even convince her to enter a place where there are rides there. So I'm not the only one. So, but at least I had fun. I had a chance where I went on rides and I've experienced it. I do not need to experience it again, but there you go. So we didn't manage to get on any of the rides. I was only going, this is now in Skegness, I was only going to look for like maybe a teacup or something like that, something that's easy, something that's not going to, shake you about. Because as you were watching, there was the ride that's quite high. I don't know what they're called. So it's quite high, and it takes you down a track, and then you go down and you go round and you go down and you're upside down. And I'm like, I can see you guys screaming, but I don't know whether you're screaming for joy or you're screaming with fear. But thank goodness it's not going to be me anytime soon. So there was no, I couldn't find any other rides. I couldn't find ride that I could actually potentially get onto. So, which was a good thing. We ended up just playing some games, one of those games in one of those, what are they called? Where you go, you put some coins, some 2p or whatever, and then you're playing a few games on. And then yeah, that's all we ended up doing. And had some food, walked by the beach, took, like I said, a lot of photos, and, just had all the lovers or all the people who were, we had the kids, the locks, putting their little locks on the bridge, and on the love or love, I think it's called love Skegness or something like that, so at least there was so much more entertainment. Normally I know I always find fun, I just people watch, I do I just do things that are safe, so to speak. I don't do anything that's not safe. I don't go on any rides. So if anybody ever wanted to take me anywhere, the last thing you're going to do is take me to Disneyland or to any Orlando or wherever. Don't take me there, because I'm not going to go on any ride, regardless of how much money you spent on me. So, at least Anyway, happy Sunday.